What's going on, you guys? Mr. Allen here. We're about to solve this polynomial inequality by both graphing and using a sign chart. Some of you may prefer one over the other, so I'll show you both. All right, so let's start by using a sign chart here. So I got to look at my key values. We have 0 for this one, -2 for this one, and 3 for this one. So those are my three biggies here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line here, like a number line, right? But I'm only going to place those three values on it. I'm not going to tick it all out. So I have -2, I have 0, and I have 3. I do not care about spacing them properly. I'm just jotting those three numbers down. Now, a sign chart is where I use test values between these 3 points here to see if it's positive or negative. If it's positive, then it satisfies this inequality because it needs to be greater than 0, right? If it's negative, it does not, all right? So let's see here. If I'm going to pick a number, say like less than -2, like -3 perhaps, I'd plug that in. I'd have a negative for this factor. I'd have a negative for this factor. And then what do we know about this one here? Well, since it's squared, it's always going to be positive. So I can really take that one out of the picture because it's not going to affect whether this thing becomes positive or negative. So if I've got it squared, I'm not even going to worry about it. So when I did -3, I've got a negative times a negative. That's going to be positive right there. Now for between -2 and 0, I'm going to use, say, -1. That's going to be a negative right here and a positive right here. So it's going to be negative overall. Now I'm going to go with 1, all right, or 2, whatever. I'll go with 1. I'm going to go with 1. All right, so if I plug 1 in, I'm going to get 1, which is positive, times another positive number. 2 positives makes it positive. And then for 4, when I plug that in, I get a positive and a positive again. Interesting. A lot of times they alternate, but this time I got 2 positives in a row. Did I make a mistake? No, I did not make a mistake. Important thing to note about this guy right here, we have a multiplicity of 2, so it's going to bounce. It's going to bounce off of that x-axis. All right, so now to solve this thing, to write out my final solution here, I'm going to need to pick all the positive intervals. So I'm going to be from -infinity to -2, right? So I can say -infinity to -2, union, right? And I'm not including -2 because at -2 it equals 0, okay? It equals 0 there. The next stretch is from 0 to 3. Why am I stopping at 3 and not going all the way to positive infinity? Well, at 3, it equals 0. Do we want this to equal 0? No. If this was greater than or equal to 0, I could pass right through 3 and go from 0 to infinity. But since it's not equal to 0, I have to go from 0, 3, and then start up again at 3 and go to positive infinity. I can also write this out using inequalities like this. I'd have x is less than -2. That's for this one here, right? And then from 0 to 3, so I look like this for this guy right here. And then for the last one, I usually put like commas between them. I would have x is greater than 3. So that would be the equivalent form, okay? And you might be wondering, like, bro, are we going to get to the graphing part? Oh, we're going to get to the graphing part. We're going to show how this would agree here with this particular solution, okay? So a sign chart is great. It's super helpful when we get more complicated graphs, like with rationals or even some of these different polynomials. But a graph really tells you what's happening here. So if I just did a rough sketch here, and I've got at 0, we have a 0, at -2, we got a 0, and then at +3. And I am ticking this one out. You don't have to, but you can. All right. Now, this is going to be a positive quartic function, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Degree of 4 here, so it's going to be a W kind of shape, right? So it's going to come down through this one and back up through this one, but then it's just going to bounce off this guy right here, right? It bounces when we have that multiplicity of 2. And as we can see here, our positive portions of this graph here are this stretch right here, right? This part right here, not including that guy because it equals 0 right there, and then on for the rest of that graph, right? I'm not right here between -2 and 0, and that's very apparent in our solutions right there. Same solution, just a different way to look at it. Your choice here, right? I think we're going to lean towards the sign chart, especially as you progress through these things because they get crazier and crazier and crazier. See you guys later.